This is V from a Canadian RVer. Today what I'd like to do is show you how I set up my Blue Ox to tow my vehicle. Now the first thing you have to know is really what is the height of the actual tow pin. So on mine you can see here at dead center approximately is 24 inches off the ground. So 24 to 25 inches is where my tow bar would actually be right now. Now on my car I have an Equinox and I've also installed the Blue Ox tow bracket, and you can see it right there is the connection point that I would put in, and I will put in the connection point and I will show you just the distance that I'm off the ground there. Here we are with one pin in so we can get the height of it, and as you can see is if I come down with the tape measure, I'm sitting at approximately 15 inches to the pin that actually pulls on the car. So let's go find out what the difference is. Again, just checking the height of my RV. Let's call it 24 inches is where it has to be on the pin here for the RV. Here I'm showing you all the parts that I use to tow my vehicle, and we're going to start off, of course, with our locking devices that we lock all the pieces on with. The next is our breakaway switch that controls the braking system in the car. Next we have a harness that I've made for my lighting, turn signals, brakes, and power to power the braking system in the car. The next two pieces that I use, and they're called everything from rattle suppressors to stabilizers, but what they do is they actually bolt between all the moving parts, and they'll secure that really nice and tight, and I'll show you that as I install them. Next, of course, we have our breakaway lines, and these are good for 10,000 pounds. As you can see, the hooks are pretty hefty on them, and I've got the Blue Ox Avail system. Now, the challenge was, how do I get down to my car level? So what I do is I use a 6-inch drop down. Now I could also use an 8, but the 8 would take me a little too low to the ground, and anytime I went over a curb or a bump or something with the RV, it could bottom out. And I've also had this bottom out one time. But what I do is I'll put this on, and this will actually drop down so that my car and my tow point of the RV is pretty well dead on, and I'll show you some pictures later on. So again, the drop down, we've got our big supporting tow cables, we got our anti-rattle, our electrical cable that actually brings the lighting and all the control to the car system, our breakaway, and our locking pins. Now coming back to the drop down, you can see here where I've got a tape measure beside it, and this is called a 6-inch drop down, but center to center it's more like 8 inches to the drop down. So from the RV connection point to the car connection point, we get approximately 8 inches of drop down. So that's pretty well right on from 24 to 14. It's not bad. So I'll show you how that lines the car and the RV connection point perfectly. And one last comment about this piece of equipment. This is manufactured by Blue Ox, and you can see that it is quite hefty. It's got two solid bars that run from the front to the back, and then it's got this massive, pretty well, what is it, about 1/4-inch steel plate that's welded all the way around. And this part here, well, that's solid. That's not tubular or hollow on the inside. So it's heavy, but it sure does a good job, and that's why I chose Blue Ox. I did look at all of them in the marketplace, and they weren't as hefty or as solid as the Blue Ox product was. So this is by Blue Ox. The braking system that I'm using in my car is the Blue Ox Patriot system, and this is an inertia brake. So I'll show you how I install it and set it up and make it work. This is how I put in my Blue Ox. First of all, on the bottom there's feet that you can adjust, and the front part of course goes on the brake. So what I do is I usually put it in here. I'll come down and hook up the brake pedal, and that's very straightforward. You just put it on. You align the seat to come up against here, and then I'll plug in the cigarette lighter, which is right over there, and with the power cord, and then right here just do an auto setup. Just press the setup button right over here and let it do its thing, and we're good to go. Then I've got also my coach inside that tells me what the brake is doing. And also just take a quick minute here just to show you the front of the car. Of course, we have our towing pins, we have our breakaway connection point, and right in there is where I have my tow connection with all the connectors that go into the car system from the RV. We have our breakaway switch, which is sitting right there. And then of course the other side of the car, which is the emergency tow and the other pin that we put in one of these units to hook up to the Blue Ox tow system. So that's the front of the car. So now what I want to do is I'm going to show you how I start assembling my configuration here so that I can tow. Now, first of all, we've got to drop down to where the car level was. So the first thing I'll do is I'll put in my drop down bar and align it with the locking pins. So that's the locking pin right there. I will lock this part on. Now the next thing I'm going to do is going back to the plates, the anti-rattle or the plates that I use for supporting the bar really nicely, is doing it this way. So it's just a big U-bolt with a plate that goes on the top here like this, and then from the bottom we bring the U-bolt up, and by tightening the bolts down on this, all the way here, will actually cause these two pieces to stabilize right through here. Next piece, of course, you're going to put on is your tow cables, and you'll hook them on there. And of course on the other side too, you'll hook up this side. So that gives you that. Now the next thing that we're going to do is put on the Blue Ox system. So now what I'm going to do is actually install the Blue Ox tow system. And now what you've got is when you open up the bars and you bring it down to your car level, the distance from the ground to here is the same distance that's on the car, which is 14 inches because of the 8-inch drop down here. So that's what I do with my Blue Ox to start towing. And this way I put another anti-rattle part on this right here. So I put this one on this part, and that actually stops the other tow bar from moving or rattling. Okay. So one of the most important things that you have to really watch for is that when you're towing your vehicle, that it's actually level with the tow bar system. I've seen too many people where the tow bar itself is a foot up or a foot down, and when the car comes to a complete stop without a braking system in the car, it's putting pressure on the actual tow bar to stop it. So again, what you want is level with your RV and the car.